Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the Crypto Raiders economy and kind of my strategy around it. Some people have been asking me both in DMs and in the general Discord discussion about what my kind of strategy is and what my thoughts are and etc. So I figured we'll make a video about it, talk about it a little bit, what's been going on. There's been a lot of general, I hate the term, but everybody uses the term FUD. I don't really care about that term at all much. Um, but I guess it works. It's what's commonly used. But there's been a lot of negative sentiment, pretty much, in the Discord lately around the project and the token a little bit. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about a lot of what's been going on, a lot of the changes, and discuss how they will be either good or bad for the game, in my opinion, and how I'm positioning myself. You can get a little bit of a hint of how I'm positioning myself here. The fact that I've got 50 characters that I just bought in the last week or two, or last week really, for actively questing, or actively doing raids, I mean, and the rest are all questing. But first things first, before we really get into this, I want to shout out a podcast I will be doing with Merrick Moon. It's called the Play and Earn Podcast. You can find it on Twitch, Play and Earn Pod, and find the schedule. We'll be starting Saturday at 5 p.m. Central, or 6 p.m. Eastern, if you're over there. But yeah, you can find it, the schedule tab on Twitch. I will go ahead and put it in the description of this video as well, so you can easily find it. But we'll be going live this Saturday with our first ever episode. And we'll be talking about Crypto Raiders and Monster Champions on that episode. But the whole show is meant to cover all play and earn projects and games, whatever we find interesting, and try to get developers and people in the project on to talk with us and talk about the project and try and find out what are good projects for the long term, what you might want to be interested in getting involved in, what you might want to stay very far away from. We'll talk about all of that. You can find it on Twitter as well, Play and Earn Pod on Twitter, at Play and Earn Pod. And I'll have the Twitter in the description as well, and you can follow it and get all the information there. We will have it re-uploaded to YouTube eventually, as well as eventually to Spotify and iTunes podcasts, but I have no clue how long or what that process is like. So the first thing on talking about the economy that I want to kind of show is the general state of the market. So Ethereum, the chart doesn't look too bad over the last 3 months. You can see we're actually up a bit from where we were at the lows a few months ago. And it looks like a fairly decent chart. Obviously, we're back down off the highs, and if you zoom back out a little bit further to a year, the chart doesn't look so nice anymore, especially when we're talking about this high here. But the 3-month chart, which is what I'm using for all the other charts, doesn't look super amazing, or doesn't look super bad rather. It looks halfway decent. But if you look at the Polygon chart, not quite the same story. And you can kind of see that's just the nature of altcoins. When Ethereum isn't super bullish and the sentiment on it isn't super bullish, any kind of other coins tied to Ethereum are going to tend to get hurt a lot more than Ethereum itself. And that brings us to Raider. And it's not a pretty chart if you're looking at the last few months. But everybody has been seeing that. Everybody's been talking about it. And that's kind of where the negative sentiment comes from. And it's not unique to Raider token. Pretty much anything associated with Crypto Raiders is doing this. And anything, I didn't pull up more, but anything with any major altcoin project, we can pull up Jewel here, is basically having a very similar look to their chart. You know, if we zoom out just a little bit to the same area, you can just see what's happened. It looks, very, very, very similar to the Raider chart at the same time frame. And that's just yeah, we zoom out just a little bit on the 3 month, and you have a very, very similar looking chart. And that's just the nature of altcoins. So it's not unique to crypto raiders. It's not something that crypto raiders is doing wrong or screwing up that's causing it. Um, it's not poor development or anything like that that's causing it. It's kind of the whole market is doing that. Now, that being said, there are some things in the economy that aren't super great and do need to be addressed, and in some cases are being heavily worked on right now, and I'm sure the team has other things that haven't been announced that are also being worked on. So we'll start talking about the economy in the short term and the long term perspective. Because it's a fairly, it's not even a year old project yet. I'm going to call the short term anything less than a year, the long term anything more than a year. For when we're talking about this, normally in investing, you'd have longer time frames than that for your short and long term, but that's what we're going to call it for now for this. What do I have here? Oh, yeah, the bank page to show the liquidity later on. But yeah, one of the big issues in the short term is right now there's very little reason to spend Aurum. And you can kind of see it reflected in the chart a bit on Aurum. There's not really any reason to spend it. The characters have all been recruited. Gen 6 floor is lower than the price to recruit a new Gen 6. No real reason to recruit if you still have recruits available. I've got 650 recruits available, none of which I've used or plan to use anytime soon. Don't plan to buy any Aurum to use them for that. Other than maybe I've got a Gen 1 Orc and a Gen 1 Mike that have Gen 4 recruits available. I might recruit those just to shoot for the moon and hope for a Gen 4 Tigress. Why not, right? So I might do that. But other than that, I'm not going to be buying any Aurum for any reason right now. So that's kind of the only thing that's left for Aurum is to spend on keys, and spending on keys doesn't feel super great with the way the tournaments are. Right now, you have to be maxed out on gear, and they're trying to change that. There's some changes to the way the pools are working, but it's largely scaling back the rewards a little bit, which makes you further not want to spend keys on it, which decreases the amount of Aurum being spent even further. One good change is they lowered the price of the reset scrolls from 2250 to 250. I do think more people will buy that. I do think it's actually worth it now. And I do know some people who swore they would never buy and you know who you are, swore they'd never buy it, have bought them and are using them on their characters right now, even though there's a free one coming. Just because it's so nice to be able to reset your character's stats and actually do more difficult dungeons. So that is a little bit of Aurum spend that is happening now, which is nice to see. But aside from that, there isn't a whole lot. And with the change to the amount of Aurum rewards you're going to be getting from generations and the battle pass changes that are coming, which will move you to 21 raids if you have a battle pass active per week, that's a lot of runs, and that's a lot of Aurum. The number shot around is like 150 Aurum per day on a Gen 1, potentially, right? With 100% bonus. So it's the 20 Aurum times the 3 is 60, plus the value of the Endless Dungeon Run gets you to like 75 Aurum on average over a long time frame. And then at 100% bonus, that gets you like 150 Aurum a day, which is a really crazy number. For how much you can take out and sell. If we extrapolate that across 7,500 Gen 1s, obviously there aren't that many that are actually going to be doing this. But you're looking at 1.1 million Aurum per day times 7 days is like almost 8 million Aurum a week just from the Gen 1s alone being generated. Obviously those numbers are way completely out of proportion because it's an average, and nowhere near the full number of Gen 1s are going to be raiding regularly. A lot of them are still level 1. So they're definitely not going to be any kind of extracting that much in any way. But that is, you kind of get the point of the potential and the pitfalls there that they have to be aware of and are aware of. That's why they've been going so slow with it. But if we don't have more ways to spend Aurum and reason to spend Aurum, I don't see this chart going anywhere except gradually down into the right. I can't see it doing anything else other than expanding this out, and we'll be looking at, I don't know how to make lines on here, but it's not going to go well. But they are aware of this, and they are coming out with Aurum sinks. That is in the near term future of the game. So we'll see how that goes. I'm still bullish on the project, full stop, long term. But short term, there are some issues to be discussed. Let's see, what else do I have here in my notes? Right now, in the whole market, because the whole market's down, there's not a lot of liquidity going around. And you can talk to anybody that has any kind of decent amount of money in the ecosystem right now. They don't really have a lot of liquid ETH sitting around. A lot of people are just, unless they're very large, then they have ETH sitting around and they're just holding off and de-risking right now. But if you're around that mid-size where you have a decent amount of money for a normal person invested, you generally are kind of stuck in your NFTs right now, or in your tokens or whatever, and you don't have a lot of just pure liquid tokens. People are in, staking contracts and things like that are locked up, or they're in the NFTs that don't want to sell for a fair price, all things like that. But the problem with low liquidity is that normally people would buy a Raider token at this price. And we've seen it in the past. Whenever it dips, we tend to, and if we go down to the 1 day view or 1 week view really, you can see when it dipped down here to that 190 range, people bought that up fairly quickly. And the $2 range is a price where people have been very happy to buy at in the past, but nobody really has a substantial amount of money free. So it's really just people that are putting extra money in that have it from, whatever their jobs or what have you, that they're bringing extra money into it, or from other projects that they're doing well in order to buy. And that's just not that much buying pressure going on. And so we see this price continuing to go down because the people who farm LP tokens and don't really care about the game, which it's probably a good half, maybe a little bit more than half of each of these pools, is people that have no association with the game and just are selling the tokens. That'll continue to push the price down a little bit. Now, these people, and the reason why I've been against bonding a little bit in the past, and still don't, well, it's a good idea to have it as an alternative, but it's not good to, and I think they've kind of realized this after talking with, based off their comments in Discord from the devs. I do think they've realized that just cutting these out and deleting all of these pools is not going to be viable. So I think they'll just get rid of the Matic pools, is what they've said, and sounds viable, and concentrate them on the WETH and USDC pool for Aurum and Raider. But you can't really get rid of them because if you get rid of them quickly, what's going to happen is these people are not going to use your bonding program to get Raider tokens instead, like you hope, and put, between these two pools, $12 million into your hands. They're not going to do that because they would be, at least not in the current ecosystem. If the coin is super bullish, then sure, you can do that. But in a bear market, it's much more difficult because the token is generally moving down, and they don't want to have that 1 week of exposure purely to the token. And what they'll do instead, if you get rid of the rewards, instead of bonding, is they will likely just pull their liquidity and dump it. And if you don't have enough liquidity to cover the half of this and half of that of Aurum and Raider that gets dumped, you're going to have a very, very bad time. Anybody who's seen what happens to shitcoins that lose their liquidity, not that I'm saying Raider or Aurum is a shitcoin whatsoever, I'm not. I'm just making the comparison to what happens when people pull their liquidity like that. the price impact is very drastic, and you see basically a straight one candle decline to near zero. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen here because the devs do have a substantial amount of liquidity put into the project, and they're not going to be taking that out. And so the price would not go that drastic, but you could see in an event where liquidity farmers decided to leave, you could see the price impact be pretty bad for a few weeks or a week or two until it had a chance to rebound and people had a chance to buy in. Yeah, so that's a risk. I don't think it's likely to happen in any way. I think the devs are extremely aware of it and have made the decision pretty much to keep these around, at least for now. They'll probably rethink that if we go into another huge bull run and the token's moving up and they reach the point where they no longer need the money in here and can cover the liquidity on their own. Eventually, the bonding program will get to a point in probably like a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. They'll reach the point where these numbers no longer really matter if they sell. Even if they dump, it won't make it won't crash it completely. Let's put it that way. It'll make a significant impact, but it won't crash the price. And at that point, they can reevaluate and pull out. The other big issue in the short term that everybody talks about, and it's a huge narrative in the entire Discord right now, in the entire community, is this number right here. When a significant portion, I don't know the exact numbers, but a good portion is 1 year unlocks. Though a lot of this was actually locked up far later in late December and early January. But the narrative is that they're all going to dump in August. And if there isn't enough liquidity to cover that, which if you just take these raider pools and add in, let's call it 4 million from the devs, that's 10, 11, 12, 13.5 million versus 19.8 million in selling pressure. That does not compute. So that's what people are worried about. I don't think it's a completely valid problem, but it is a short-term issue that could cause the price to drop down a bit. And that'll be a tremendous buying opportunity for people that want to get in. But another option of something that could happen at the 1 year unlock is we hit a perceived bottom, and anybody that has, assuming there are people that have money that are waiting to invest in Raider token, are able to start buying as soon as the narrative shifts. As soon as the narrative shifts and we hit that perceived bottom, you could see a lot of buying pressure, and the price could start moving in the other direction very quickly. And as that happens, anybody that's sold right at unlock will have some major FOMO issues, and we could revisit all-time highs very, very quickly right after unlock. It's very possible. I don't think either scenario is super likely. I don't think it's super likely that we go super hard in either direction. I think we probably stay level, maybe move up to around the $3 mark. Eventually, we may have a big spike down short term right after the unlock, but it all depends on where we're at. It's still a few months away, so all of this is pure speculation and very hard to actually do anything about. It's not actionable information. It's not anything that anybody's able to do anything about or act on until then. So another thing in the short term is we have the $1 million tournament, which can be, it's kind of a double-edged sword in my opinion. It will be, if they have a game that is engaging and capable of keeping people who show up from the hype around and making them want to come and play the game every day, then the $1 million tournament will be massively successful, and we will see a massive influx of players, and that will basically band-aid all of the problems in the economy right now. Because big influx of players means a lot of characters being bought up the floor. Floor price goes up, requires more people to recruit, causes buying pressure on Aurum. Aurum spend goes way up, makes the ROI of solo stake go up, makes buying pressure on Raider token go up. Everybody's happy, everything's going up. and it kind of band-aids the issues and gives them time to reach more permanent solutions with proper syncs and things like that. The double-edged sword part of it is if they do not have a game and they put themselves on a timer by doing $1 million prize pool tournament and trying to drive all this hype. And I think it's a good thing that they're doing it, just to be clear. I'm very, very happy about the $1 million tournament. But it is a risk in that they are now on a timer. If they do not have a game that is engaging enough to keep those people around, what will happen is the $1 million tournament will drive hype. People will show up, buy some characters, and then decide it's not fun, and then sell the characters at a loss, because that's the only way they're going to be able to exit very quickly. And you'll see a lot of people that are interested enough in the project to want to be involved in it, and interested enough in the game and the type of game, and are in crypto already. That's a pretty good portion of your audience. If they come in, decide it's not fun, and then leave at a loss, they're not likely to come back. It's very hard to get those people to come back compared to getting them to show up in the first place. So if you don't have a game that's super engaging and fun and keeps them around, you're going to alienate a lot of people that would otherwise be a big part of your target audience and target demographic. So it's a very fine balancing act. They've kind of, over the next 2.5 months, they've got to develop a lot of stuff and make the game fun, I think. Unity being out and having both teams working on it will speed up development quite a bit. Once that's out, but we'll see what happens. I'm hopeful that we'll see live PvP and in-game leaderboards and everything like that, and group fights, group PvP, group PvE, things like that would all be very cool. And I think if they had all of that out by then, it would be extremely, extremely good for the project, but it's hard to say if they'll be able to develop that quickly or not. I have no idea on coding. I couldn't code my way to anything. I only passed the high school robotics class where we had to code the robot because I had great group mates who did all of that shit, and I could just put the damn thing together, and that's all I was good for. So I can't code, don't know anything about coding, no clue how long it'll take, no clue how much faster or how much better Unity is. I have no idea. But it sounds like they'll be able to develop more quickly. And it sounds like Kix or SAS or whatever name you want to use for them is going to be doing a lot of marketing and a big push to try to get more people interested in the game. And as long as they can get the game to a point where it's super engaging and those people stick around, it will fix a lot of the issues that are going on right now, at least in the short term, until they can get some more long-term solutions out. Speaking of the long-term, in the more than a year category, the big thing about Crypto Raiders is the team has the funding to pay their team to continue developing regardless of what the market does, so we don't really have to fear a complete shutdown. That's usually the big problem in a bear market with crypto projects, is you're kind of always a little bit worried in the back of your head. Are the devs just going to say, oh, well, we did a good job, we had a nice try, it was a fun run, guys, see you later, and just take their money and go home? I don't think that's a real concern. I'm not concerned about it in any way in Crypto Raiders. So that's extremely good news for anybody that's in it long term. And many of the things they're doing right now that I don't think they're really going to be super effective at fixing the issues in the economy in the short term, are very good for laying the groundwork for a long-term economy. And that's things like the Battle Pass that has people cycling through Raider tokens and spending them. Depending on what the devs decide to do with those Raider tokens, we have no idea. But that's very, very good for the long term. Sorry. But things like that are very good. Changing tournament structure is much better for the long term than it is for the short term. The changes to LAS and the earnings for generations are very nice for the long term, even if it's going to cause some short term problems with the amount of Aurum coming into the ecosystem. Um, Also, in the long term, once we have like a fully functioning overworld and everything like that in place, which is probably going to be about a year out, maybe a little more than a year out. Once all those features have been implemented, and we have an in-game auction house, we have all of these things that everybody's been talking about forever, and all of the bullish things that people love about the game and what makes them excited and spam the Discord. Once those have all been implemented, I really think the game's going to be fun. I really think it's going to be engaging. I think it's a game that people will be willing to spend money on just for the sake of fun. I suspect I'll be one of them, and that is very, very good for the anybody who's invested for the long term. Also, after the 1 year unlock has passed, there's really no major events I can see coming up that make it easy to drive a negative narrative. And I think that the community sentiment will really shift to a more bullish outlook after that's over and after we get past the fallout from that. So we're talking late September, October, November area. We see the entire community kind of shift over on this kind of from this bearish narrative to this to a very bullish narrative as we used to have back in December and January. The whole community was, for the most part, very bullish, and I think we'll see that happen again. And as soon as that narrative shifts, the moment we get that narrative shift, I think anybody that's been holding off and waiting to try to buy the bottom is going to want to hop in. And anybody that sold tokens along the way is going to have to, deal with that FOMO and might jump back in, and we could easily see the price kind of going insane. I was talking with Darude on his stream the other day, and I said, I wouldn't be super shocked if we're sitting here in November or December looking at a $25 price chart. Like, it would not surprise me in any way if that happened because people FOMO'd in a hype cycle after we have that narrative shift. And that's the next thing I want to talk about while we're on the subject is it's both an upside and a downside. Is both Raider and Aurum are largely driven by the narrative within the community, and that's because there's a large number of tokens being held by people in the community. It's a result of the way they set up the tokenomics and did the airdrop, and it's extremely good for the game and the ecosystem when the community is bullish, and it's very bad when the community is bearish. So it kind of goes both ways. But we're very quickly, with more investors coming in and whales coming in and things like that, we're very, very, very quickly getting to a point, if we're not already there, we might already be there, where community sentiment is no longer playing as large of a role. And I think especially after the 1 year unlock happens and anybody who wants to sell off sells off, I think we will see the community sentiment no longer drive the market super hard, though we could have some upside potential with people who sold buying back in again at a higher price and driving the token price higher. So kind of given my outlook on the economy, and this is all, my opinion, and none of this is going to be financial advice from here on as I talk about what I do and what I'm going to do using this information. And of course, these are all opinions. Some of them might be seen as FUD. Some of them might be seen as whatever. I don't really care. Deal with these are my opinions. I'm not going to sugarcoat them or dance around this topic, even if some of them are slightly negative opinions in the short term. I'm not going to dance around that for anybody's benefit. It is what it is. But my strategy, given all of these assumptions and the things that I've said so far, is right now I'm just holding the tokens. I don't plan to sell them at lockup. Obviously, it depends. I'm not going to make a firm statement and guarantee and promise everybody that I won't sell any of these tokens when they unlock. Can't promise that for certainty, but I don't think I will. I certainly won't if it was unlocked today, I wouldn't be selling. But we'll see what the price is like. I think right now, again, not financial advice, but selling some NFTs and freeing up liquidity for buying opportunities, given the very bearish overall market and the negative sentiment that's kind of being driven. I think selling some NFTs is just smart to free up liquidity. I've been doing it. I sold a mythic mob for 8 ETH. I've got another one listed at 8.5 that I'm trying to sell. I'm still super bullish on mobs long term, and I really, really hope I'm able to buy them back at around those prices in the future. But right now, freeing up liquidity is just a really good idea in my opinion, and it's what I'm doing. I did, of course, as soon as I freed up liquidity on this last one, I bought 50 characters with a lot of it. Um, so it is what it is. I'm not really good at hanging on to money. I tend to just spend it when I have it. Um, but I think holding some liquid is a good idea right now, um, as opportunities open up and you have a chance to buy in at lower prices. Um, let's see. Right now, I'm keeping most of my characters. I don't plan to ever sell characters, other than I'll sell Gen 6s. If we have a huge bull run, I'll recruit and sell Gen 6s. But other than that, I don't plan on ever selling any characters again. I've sold in the past, but it was to make strategic moves to move down in generation. I think that time has passed. And now I'm just holding all of my characters. I've got 600 characters that are passive material farmers. They're going to stay that way. I've got my selection of 50 relatively low generation characters. We got Gen 1s, 2s, mostly some Gen 3 and 4s mixed in amongst these 50, and they're going to be my Battle Pass characters. You can see I've got 500 Raider tokens set to the side and purchased, ready to, depending on what the price is, they toss around 5 to 10, so I assume 10 Raider tokens. We have no idea what the price will be, but I plan to Battle Pass each and every one of these and run them every single day, and that's kind of my plan with those. Mobs are an excellent long-term hold, and I think they will be insanely valuable as the game grows. And if your time horizon is more than a year, mobs are extremely beneficial to have. That being said, I am selling, full disclosure, I am selling both of my mythics. I already sold one. I've got another one listed. And the reason for that is simply that mobs are where I can find the most liquidity the easiest. I can sell, 2 assets and get 16 ETH or more in liquidity to do with what I need. And that's a lot easier than trying to sell 600 characters, so that's why I'm kind of going that route. And I think the characters just have more short-term value in questing and raiding than mobs have in the next couple of months. But long-term, mobs are far better, in my opinion. But both are great. All of this being said, buying and holding is still the best strategy. Trying to time the market often doesn't work out, but I like to min-max pretty much everything that I do. And that's why my strategy is the way it is. It's why I'm freeing up liquidity to try and buy the bottom, basically. I do try to time the market. I don't recommend it. It's highly likely that I'm going to miss a pump on mythic mobs and lose my opportunity to ever hold a mythic mob again after I sell these. It's very likely to happen. Not super happy about that, but it is what it is. And yeah, that's kind of my strategy and my thoughts. In so much as I've got a strategy anyway. And we'll see what happens. This video has gone on really long, but I had a lot to say on the subject. And I think things are going to turn around right around late September. But I don't see them turning around before then, really. Not heavily. Unless, of course, the $1 million tournament drives a ridiculous amount of hype and the game keeps those people around. If that happens, then our turnaround point is much sooner than September. It's, probably late June is probably our turnaround point, or even earlier than that, maybe early June, right after the mint of the passes to be able to enter the tournament. You could see the turnaround point and where everything kind of goes bullish again for the project. We'll see what happens there, but it all depends on what they build out over the next couple of months, and hopefully, for the sake of Aurum, we get some good Aurum syncs coming in. And I know they've commented a lot about trying to come up with syncs that are appropriate for the game and not just tossing in syncs to have a sync. And while that is good, to make sure they fit with the game and are something that'll be good for the longevity, Aurum does have quite a bit of downward pressure right now, and I don't see it turning around in the short term. So hopefully they come up with something. That being said, the minting of the battle passes being an Aurum, priced in Aurum, will help for a short while there and kind of keep the price from collapsing. But after that, could be in for some dire times on Aurum's price at least. So that's my 2 cents. I'm basically, to sum it all up, if you just skip to the end of the video, and it was, because it is a long one, and I don't blame you at all if you just skip to the end. To sum up my opinions, I'm neutral to bearish in the short term and extremely bullish in the long term. And my strategy kind of reflects that. So I hope, again, all of these are just opinions. None of these should be taken as fact. None of the information I have should be guaranteed as accurate. It's all personal opinions and how I view the subject. This is a much more opinionated video than my general guides in trying to give information normally is. So take it all with a grain of salt and do your own research. Of course, none of it's financial advice in any way, and I hope I'm completely wrong about the short-term downsides, and none of it pans out. Yeah, we'll see. That's about all I've got to say. I didn't really plan out this video. I just got on here and started rambling. So hopefully you all do well. Hopefully you all are holding some Raider tokens for the long term, because I do think we will see, we will visit far, far higher in the long term than the all-time high back here at 1360, 1350 something. I think we'll go way higher than that in the long term. I think that I think people who bought here at the absolute top and held will still be happy about their investment if they're looking at the 1 to 2 year horizon. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Also, feel free to comment any of your thoughts whatsoever on the state of the economy and the state of crypto raiders and what you hope is coming up in the future, what changes. If you come up with any ideas for Aurum syncs, I'm utterly certain the dev team would love to hear them in game feedback, and I will certainly put some effort into trying to think of some, because I'm sure they would not mind extra ideas on it beyond what they already have planned. I know they have like skins and stuff like that coming out. I don't know how much of an impact that'll have, but we will find out together, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm not going anywhere. I'll be in the project for at least the next several years, so we'll see what happens. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.